All right, so in this topic, or sorry, this video, we're going to look at topic 1.2. So, developments in Dar al Islam. And Dar al Islam basically stands for or means House of Islam. So, we're looking at really the places where Islam really spread to and to see how it kind of impacted those places from approximately 1200 to 1450. So, as we move through this topic, I really want you to focus on three major ideas. So, how Islam spread, how Islamic states changed after the Assad Caliphate fragmented, and how the Islamic world became a center for intellectual achievement and cultural exchange. Now, before we discuss Dar Islam, we need to talk about the three important monotheistic religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So, Judaism is one of the world's oldest monotheistic religions, and it really emphasized the covenant between God and the Hebrew people. Christianity grew from the teachings of Jesus and it spread throughout the Roman world and beyond. And if you're a Christian, you know Christianity really pushes or emphasizes faith, salvation, love, forgiveness, and living a moral life. And Islam, excuse me, was founded by the Prophet Muhammad in the Arabian Peninsula, and it really teaches that God, Muhammad was God's final messenger. And Islam really pushes to its followers that salvation will be found through righteous acts like almsgiving, prayer, fasting. And Muhammad himself was also a merchant, so he traded with other countries. And because he made those good trading relationships, he was able to spread Islam to other countries as well. So all three of these religions really shaped societies, governments, and culture throughout Afro-Eurasia. So during this period, Judaism really maintained a vibrant community throughout North Africa and the Middle East. Christianity really remained influential in societies such as the Byzantine Empire in Ethiopia, which we'll talk about that in a minute or later on. And Islam expanded really across Africa and Asia. And again, the biggest thing I want you to take away from these are all three of these religions were monotheistic, so they believed in one God. So if we look at this map, we can see patterns of how Islam really spread throughout Asia and in sub-Saharan Africa. And we'll talk about momentarily what caused that spread to be so rapid. So before we talk about more of Dar Islam, we kind of need some context. So this is that contextualization that we're going to talk about. So after the death of Muhammad, Islam really expanded rapidly through military conquest, trade, and missionaries. So please make sure you remember the big M's, three M's. So Islam spread through military conquest, merchants, and missionaries. So prior to the 1200, the Assad Caliphate, which was one of the first Islamic empires, really served as a powerful center for the Islamic world. However, due to internal conflicts and whatnot, the Assad Caliphate really fragmented or crumbled. And as a result, you had other Islamic states that came to be. So remember our pieces, remember the themes in AP World that we're always going to look at. So the first one here is environment. So many Islamic societies really developed in challenging environments such as deserts and very arid regions. So to adopt, they built a very sophisticated irrigation systems, which included several different things such as water wheels. So these innovations really increased agricultural productivity and really supported growing populations. Now, geography also helped the Islamic world thrive. So, because of where it is positioned between Europe, Africa, and Asia, a lot of Islamic societies really controlled many of the world's most important trade routes. So, like the Silk Road, the Indian Ocean trade, and the Trans-Saharan trade routes, and we'll talk about more of those in Unit Two. But it's important to know that Islamic people really kind of control those three major trade routes. So this map really highlights the importance of trade in the Islamic world. So notice how Islamic merchants really connected multiple regions across Afro-Eurasia. So trade carried not only goods, but also ideas, technologies, religions, and culture. So the cultural diffusion really helped spread Islam and created one of the most interconnected regions in the world. Now, for the S of pieces, social structures. So, Islamic societies really developed complex social hierarchies. So, Muslims occupied the highest position in society, while Jews and Christians were often recognized as people of the book. So, therefore, those groups of people were allowed to practice their religion, but they had to pay a special tax to do so. So, women generally had more legal rights than women in other societies, including inheritance and property rights. However, social expectations really varied across Islamic regions as far as women and whatnot. Now, slavery also existed throughout the Islamic world, although Islamic law really prohibited Muslims from enslaving other Muslims. Now, for political systems, so the P and pieces, so looking at politics. So, one of the most important historical developments in this topic is the fragmentation of the Assad Caliphate and the rise of other of the new Islamic states. So, the Seljuk Empire, Delhi Sultanate, and the Mamluk Sultanate all emerged after the Assad Caliphate crumbled. And we'll talk more about those in the next slide. So, the Seljuk Empire were made up of, was found in Central Asia, and it was made up of Turkish Muslims. So the Assad Caliphate actually brought on the Seljuks as military forces to really help them spread or take over other places to spread Islam and whatnot. But unfortunately for the Assad Caliphate, but fortunately for the Seljuks, the roles kind of flipped. So the Seljuks really were the one that gained all the political power in the empire, while the Assad Caliphate really just became the face of Islam, or more a symbol of of Islamic religion. So the Delhi Sultanate was established in India, and we'll talk about this in 1.3 more in depth. But India at this time was very Hindu heavy, so really Islam became the minority religion in the Delhi Sultanate. But it did rule over in India for about 300 years. And because it was such a Hindu heavy place, they did try to blend the cultures together or synchronize the cultures of Islam and Hindu together. But they would start taxing people who were not Muslim during this empire. And the Mamluk Sultanate was founded in Egypt. So, long story short, the Egypt ruler Saladin, he was a ruler at the time. The Maluks were slaves under the authority of Saladin. So once he died, they had other kings that kind of took over, but they were weak. So the Maluks took that opportunity to take over and create their own sultanate, which we have here. I'm gonna plug this in here, but we won't talk more about the Mongols until Unit 2. But the Maluks Sultanate was one of their achievements where they were able to stop the Mongols from advancing into Southwest Asia. So if you look at this map right here, it shows the diversity of states that really developed throughout the Islamic world. Notice that while these states were politically independent, they remained connected through religion, trade, law, and scholarships. So this combination of diversity and continuity is a major theme in this class. All right, so for the E in pieces, economic systems. So trade was the foundation of the Islamic economy. And because of this, a lot of those Islamic empires, unlike the Christian empires, really thrived economically. So major cities such as Baghdad, Cairo, Timbuktu really became a centers of commerce and cultural exchange. So merchants really held high status in Islamic society because Muhammad himself had been a merchant. So I mentioned that earlier. So Islamic traders really used innovations such as credit, banking systems, and bills of exchange to support long distance trade. Now, agricultural expansion also increased prosperity. So you had new crops that came to be, such as rice, cotton, citrus fruit, and those really spread throughout trade network and supported larger populations. Now, for cultural development, so the C in pieces. So the Islamic world really became one of the most important centers for learning and culture during this period. So one important place, and I want you to remember this, please, is the House of Wisdom in Baghdad. And it was known for preserving and expanding knowledge from Greek, Persian, Indian, and Roman civilizations. People would go here to study a lot of times. So scholars such as Ibn Sina um, really advanced medicine and other things. Sorry, let me translate. Excuse me. So religion really also influenced architectures in this time period. So structures such as the Dome of the Rock, the Great Mosque, and whatnot really showed the importance of Islam when it came to art and architecture. And remember that Christianity also shaped architecture throughout structures such as the Hagia Sophia, while Jewish communities really contributed greatly to commerce and intellectual life throughout the Islamic world. So again, the main thing I want you to take away from this is the House of Baghdad was really an important place, and it preserved knowledge and preserved and expanded knowledge in a lot of areas such as math, science, etc. All right, so innovations. So remember that's the I in pieces. So in the Islamic world was a center of innovation and knowledgeable transfers. So Islamic scholars really developed advances in mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and navigation. Um, what else I want to say from the slide? Oh, and the Astrolab was another innovation during this time. And the Astrolab really helped sailors navigate across long distance. Scholars really refined knowledge from India, Greece, Persia, and China, and then expanded upon it. So this period is often called the Islamic Golden Age because of its intellectual achievements during this time. And we're going to stop here, and we'll pick it back up at 1.3.